I will be looking at narrative and gameplay within Supermassive Games Until Dawn for Sony PlayStation 4. I will look into the different gameplay and narrative techniques that are used within the game, and how they add to the player's experience in terms of a horror game. Narrative is a way of telling a story in a game, and a way to tell the player where they are, who they are, and what is going to happen. Narrative can also be used to tell the player the rules and mechanics of the game indirectly. Narrative is usually used, as it is in Until Dawn, to enhance a game's entertainment value, making the game more fun and interesting for the player to play. Gameplay, on the other hand, is the way in which the player interacts with the game's systems. The player is usually given control of a character or characters, as we see in Until Dawn. This allows the player to connect with the game and feel more in control. Game mechanics are also used to produce rules that create the game experience for the player to enjoy. The game is designed to make the player feel in control of the entire story and narrative in the game. They use several game mechanics that allow the player to have control and interact with the narrative system. Firstly, the player is given the opportunity at points in the game to select one of two options. These could be to do with selecting what the character says, or selecting the direction in which the character goes. The player selects an option using the analog sticks on the controller. They decided to use the analog sticks instead of the arrow buttons because the player can quickly change their mind whilst deciding. The video shows that as the player moves the stick in one direction, a circle begins to fill, but if the player moves the stick in the other direction, the other circle will fill. This means that the player is made to think about their decision and its impact more, making the game more intense like a horror game should be. If the player was to use the arrow buttons, then once they had decided, it would be final and no changes can be quickly made. This doesn't give the player time to think about the consequences of their decision. Secondly, Until Dawn incorporates quick time actions. This is where the player must quickly press the button indicated on screen within a few seconds. These quick time actions make the player think fast. This is another way to make the game more intense. As you can see by this section of the game, the player's ability to complete or fail these quick time actions changes the fate of the characters. If the game didn't use these, then the player wouldn't feel responsible if the character dies. If the character fails and dies, then the player would feel guilty and responsible for not pressing the buttons in time. Guilt, fear and shock are the main emotions the game puts onto the player. This mechanic makes them feel guilty. Thirdly, the player is made to use motion control in small parts of the game. The player must hold the controller still to prevent the character from being caught. If the player moves the controller, however, then the story changes and the character is put in danger, making the player feel scared. Without this mechanic, the game wouldn't be able to build up fear in the player in this situation. If the player has control of the character's fate with this mechanic, then the story could go in different directions, and the player feels, again, that the life of the character is in their hands. Not only this, but motion control, as Jamie Briggs from Analog Addiction says, makes parts of the game generally entertaining and provides some more intense moments in Until Dawn. The last mechanic is exploration. This gives the player control of the character's movement and allows them to discover objects and places. For example, in the video, the player decided to look in the area on the right. This allows them to find a clue that pieces together a story that can be read in the game's menu. Without this mechanic, the player would feel as though the game gives them no control. The game would feel more like a film with the occasional interactivity. Until Dawn is very similar to Telltale games The Walking Dead. In The Walking Dead, they use option selection. However, they give the player more than two choices. The Walking Dead also uses quick time events to make the player feel more on edge and build up a sense of fear and emergency. Finally, The Walking Dead also uses exploration as a method to give players control of a character and enable them to interact with the environment and find objects or points of interest. The player is made to take control of all 8 characters throughout the game and decide the paths in which the story goes. The player's job is to save as many of the characters from death as possible. This type of narrative is called interactive story. An interactive story is a story that the player interacts with by contributing actions to it. The game uses what it calls the butterfly effect. This is, as Vince Vader from Gaming Concepts says, the sensitive dependencies on initial conditions in which a small change in one state of a deterministic nonlinear system can result in large differences in a later state. Or in English, if you do something small or make a small change in the present, it could have huge impact on the events that unfold in the future, and the outcome of those future events. The entire game is built around this concept to give players leadership of the narrative and story in the game. Until Dawn uses several techniques to deliver narrative to the player. Firstly, they use cutscenes. These are basically mini movies that are played to the player in between gameplay. Some games use detailed cutscenes that are created using other software to make them look stunning. However, Until Dawn uses cutscenes produced with the in-game engine to provide visual continuity. This means that the cutscenes use the same lighting and rendering techniques as the gameplay sections, meaning the game transitions between the two seamlessly, making the experience more immersive. Secondly, Until Dawn uses scripted events. These are when the player is in control of the character, but briefly loses control while a short cutscene-like video is played. For example, in the video, the player is walking through the woods when an NPC jumps out at him. The walking part is the player in control, but the jumping part is a short cutscene. These are used throughout the game, mainly for jump scares. A horror game would use jump scares like this to frighten the player more. Putting them in as a scripted event means that the player isn't expecting it when it happens. Lastly, Until Dawn uses in-game artifacts. These are essentially collectibles that the player finds during exploration. When a player finds something, they are given valuable information about what's going on and the world the player is moving through. This is a good way to deliver information to the player slowly, making it feel more like a puzzle or riddle. This is a more fun and interactive way to tell a story than just to tell a player through a cutscene. In conclusion, I have found that the game combines several game mechanics to make the gameplay experience fearsome and narrative techniques to make the game more immersive. I believe the game achieves a fearsome experience by making the player feel guilty for the death of characters and shocked when a character unexpectedly dies. The game ensures that the player feels that they are solely in control of the character's fate, and the way in which they have managed to insert cutscenes seamlessly in between gameplay makes the cutscenes feel more like bridges between player input rather than separate parts of the game. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed learning a few things about narrative and gameplay within Until Dawn.